All right, I'm back. But yeah, overall, the film industry, it's just very challenging to get a job in general. And so my best advice is, like I said before, just get that work up there. There is events that happen in California, like the Noman events, where they have industry pros talk all the time and hang out. I think going to Noman too is really helpful. But that would be my advice. Any other questions, friends?
Hey, Jay. Would you say you said the $30 figure, the $30 per hour was a good mark? Did you mean that for for a beginner, or did you mean like for someone more experienced, or like just standard?
Everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people who are a little bit better could probably ask for more, but if you don't know, I think 30 is a good place to start. Yeah. You can definitely ask for more depending on who you're working for and the quality of work you got, but
yeah,
it's a little bit harder to determine sometimes. So that's why I usually just suggest people focus in on not going below that number versus knowing exactly what number they should be at.
And I guess follow-up question. You said that if I wanted to apply to somewhere like Bungie, I should probably try to paint in that style so they don't have to train me, right?
Yeah, I mean, think of it as if you owned a company that painted oranges, right? Like you guys made games about oranges, okay? And you go to ArtStation and you see a bunch of people drawing pears, and then one person draws oranges. You're going to be more attracted to the person who draws oranges, right?
Yeah.
And so if you think about the same thing about like studios that you admire, right? It's the same idea. Like, why would it be the case that they would hire you just to teach you how to do what they do?
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe an internship makes sense, and that's in that regard, or some sort of apprentice setup,
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the whole idea is that you're ready to go day of,
Yeah.
And if you're not, then they're not going to hire you. And so whenever you hear this advice about like painting in the style of the employer that you're looking to work with, right? It makes sense from just like a logistical point of view, right?
Yeah.
Because then you walk in and you just start painting and just start working.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some things you don't know right off the bat, right? Like the file structure, or like the submission process, or like how they review. Things like this make sense that there might be a little bit of learning to be done.
Yeah.
But doing but actually painting the concepts to a quality that they're looking for, that should be a given. That's why they hired you.
Yeah.
So don't ever get confused with any other. Like I talked about this before, right? I think meritocracy is the greatest reason why free market is so popular, because it truly doesn't care about anything else other than your skill in most cases, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's really important to just be skilled, so that way that's something that you don't worry about. And so when I get going back to that question of should I paint in the style, like why would anyone hire someone that doesn't paint in their style?
Yeah.
It is really that simple. Like, why would they want to hire someone who draws like they would for Pixar. Like that person could be a pro and veteran and worked in the industry for decades, right?
But it might not make sense to hire them if they don't do things the way they need them to.
Yeah. Like you have to walk in that door and then get to work that same day. You understand? Like there shouldn't be like, we shouldn't have to teach you how to do something. That's kind of their attitude. Other than like the kinds of stuff that I talked about that makes sense, like, learning the ropes of the studio. Yeah. These things, obviously there's some wiggle room.
Yeah.
All right. Does it help?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then I have another question, but I wanted to let someone else go before me.
Yeah, sure. Anyone else have any questions?
Hello. Okay, my question is, I live in Australia, and the game industry is like kind of shit here. Like we had something good going, but I don't know, it keeps getting worse every year. And I was wondering, like, should I keep trying to work in a kind of, I don't know, failing gaming economy, or should I just try and, like, I don't know, apply for overseas stuff, or just keep investing time into myself and trying to improve, even though I'm not going to be earning anything or whatever?
Is that true?
It's
Like,
really bad.
do you have evidence to support this claim? Because I think I don't think it's entirely true. Because I think the game industry in general is growing constantly. You might not have the biggest and baddest people rolling in Australia, but I assure you there might be something going on.
2K just closed, and then Greed just closed as well.
Were both of those places in Australia?
Yeah, and they were probably the two biggest places in Australia, and only EA's left.
Yeah, but I don't know if you'd be down to work at those companies anyways.
I worked at Greed for a bit, as a art generalist.
Yeah, and did you like it?
No shit.
Yeah, see, so get into my point.
I like the
Okay.
people.
Yeah, but to answer this question more appropriately, you kind of want to just probably do more freelance. It seems like, especially if you don't want to move. I mean, that's also reality. Like, there's some studios are not in your country.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. But it doesn't mean that you can't work for studios outside of your country. You can just do it through freelance.
Right.
Right. And so that's something that you're just going to have to consider, and you're just going to have to look into deeply. And can you work at studios outside of your country? Of course you can. Right. How do you go about getting people to recognize you? Is the same strategies that I talked about before, right? Which is pushing your work so people know that you exist, right?
Yeah.
And then also being really active on being consistent about pushing your work to better quality day by day.
Day by day.
Day by day. But yeah, like, your circumstances are your circumstances. Nobody is going to change just because of you, right? So think of it like this. Let's say you're looking at a job to work at, like, Blizzard, on this really cool project, and you're really excited about it. You think your work is qualified enough to do it, and they're looking for in-house, not outsourcing. And they happen to see someone that's just as good, maybe even better than you, apply for the same position, and they're a local. They're going to take the job from you. If let's say you are actually better than that person, but not enough to warrant to fly you out and get you a visa and all that good stuff, because again, there may be someone who's turns in their portfolio and their work is good enough, and they're local. Again, you might get shafted. right?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing you can do about that. You know, other than moving, right? It's just something that you might not want to do, or just keep trucking and try to find those freelance gigs.
I mean, I'd move, but I don't know. I feel like I still, I even, I got to improve a lot because I don't really want to be a art generalist. I want to try and get into concept more.
Yeah. So, do you understand what I'm trying to explain, though?
Yeah.
Which is that the world is the way that it is. You know, you can't. Nobody's going to just move mountains just for you because your situation happens to be unfortunate. You know?
Yeah, I can
like,
sit here and be spiteful though.
Huh?
I can sit here and be spiteful though. No.
Yeah. Like you can talk all day about how the game industry in Australia is sucky.
Yeah.
Sure. So are you? So that means what? You just never going to work ever again, right? Like you just got to have to figure it out, right?
I'm joking. Yeah.
You're gonna have to figure it out, and so yeah, maybe that's entirely true. The circumstances in Australia are not great. So my advice again would just be keep your work good and make friends with people continuously and constantly. You know, Australia. See if I can find artists. I'm sure there's many. I can't think of the top of my head who's like a fantastic.
Jack comes from Australia.
Who?
Mr. Jack.
Oh, is he?
I'm pretty sure he's Australian.
Oh well, he left.
Yeah, but he's a freak.
Wait, what? Which one's one of your pieces? I don't see it.
Sorry?
Top row girl. This one right here, Gabby? You're not from Australia. Why did it say that you came up? But hey, now you have one extra follower. You're welcome. I see. I think you can do it this way, actually. So here you go. So there's Maximilian, there's Ned, there's Benjamin, there's Adam, there's Blake, there's Wayne, there's Jackie, there's Tommy. Sure, these guys are doing all right. Let's get it so that's more people. You see my point?
Yeah.
So like even within your own country, like why would they want to hire you when they can hire some of these people? You know? Yeah. Like that's just the reality. There's like nothing you can really say or do. You know, like if you're hoping that I was going to give some sort of advice, that would have been like, oh, you know what, dude? Like, this is exactly what you do, no matter how shitty your situation is. You know, like that advice is that you have to consistently push your stuff and continuously get better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that is like the realest deterrent to any bad luck situation that you may have. It may take years for you to get past it. It may take years for people to recognize your skills, but that's the ticket out, dude. It just is, you know.
So yeah, I get that, but what I'm kind of trying to ask more is do you reckon like self investment or work is more important at this stage? Like, because I'm kind of saving to just so I can focus more on art, but you know what I mean? Like I'm kind of focusing on art, work balance kind of deal.
What do you mean self-worth? I don't understand.
I mean, so employment versus like practicing and freelance, like steady
Give me
employment.
give me a situation so like it's a little bit
So I,
easier.
so I like literally can go and get a job, like go start looking for proper jobs tomorrow because I'm kind of just freelancing on the side.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not really earning that much money, and I'm kind of burning through my savings and doing really cheap freelance.
Mm-hmm.
Or would you say just get a job and just go home just try and find as much time as you can after work to practice?
Yeah, I can't make that choice for you. You have to decide for yourself. Because if I were to say, yeah, man, just devote all your time and attention to art, and then you do that, but then you're living on the streets, you know, because you're just like, well, AJ said, go full throttle, you know.
I mean,
And if I were to give you the other advice, which would be, yeah, work, you know, and keep yourself alive, keep yourself afloat, right? And then you just never pursue your passions because you just get too tired or you become complacent or whatever the problem may become. And then you're like, well, see, AJ told me to this. Like, that's not my responsibility. My responsibility as your mentor is to give you the advice that I know works. Okay. And to keep you away from any kind of disillusion and keep you away from any distraction. Right. So here's how I want to have you think about this problem. Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to paint your portfolio for you, no matter what your circumstances are. I know people who worked full-time jobs and built a portfolio and now work in industry. I know people who had nothing but their parents' money pay for their education, but they still had to paint everything and then they got a job in the industry. You understand? It doesn't matter if you were born with a silver spoon or a golden plate, whatever, or you're like, you know, fighting in the streets like Rocky and punching meat, you know, as you train, you know?
Yeah.
Nobody cares is what I'm trying to get at. All people care about is your quality of your work and if you're a good friend of theirs, right? So let me put it to you in this one way, and this is my favorite way of thinking about this. Where you're the employer, like always put it in your perspective as if you're the person employing somebody. So person A has a great portfolio, and then person B has a mediocre portfolio. It's good, you know, it's not bad, it's good. But person A has an outstanding portfolio. Who do you hire?
The outstanding portfolio.
Yeah, right. Person A, no questions asked.
No questions asked.
Okay, so now let's say you know more about who these people are. Okay, again, nothing has changed. Like they're good people. You interviewed them. They're nice, and everything's that. But now you know more about who they are. Okay. Let's say person A, you know, went to school and they really had, like, you know, they came from a privileged family and they had very little hardship. They were really able to just focus all their attention on making the outstanding portfolio. You understand?
Yeah.
And person B, they have a full-time job, they have kids, they have this and that, and they have all these things that kind of potentially explains why their portfolio isn't as good as it needs to be. Okay. Now, does your like, again, this is your company. You're trying to hire people so that you can make this great project. Does your choice change now that you know more information? No, because you want to hire the person who's going to do the best job, right?
Yeah.
Irregardless that the person B has a little bit more of like an underdog story, you know? You're like, I don't think that, you know, when I say I don't, when I say people don't care, I don't mean that they're like, oh, I don't care that your life sucks. What I mean is that when it comes to actually hiring people, they almost are always objective. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And so then think of it like this. What if we flip the roles, that this person has all the struggles in the world, but again, they have an outstanding portfolio, right? But they had all those struggles and they had all those problems and all those things. And then person B, you know, has the mediocre portfolio, but then again, they had all the time in the world, you know? Again, who do you hire? You're going to always hire person A, no matter what information you've gotten from them. This is obviously, generalization. I mean, I'm sure there's some circumstances where people would have hired person B, especially if they knew who they were, right? And they're like good friends and they want to help them out, right? That's why I say that the second part of the equation is make friends, because that does happen, right? Like in a situation where person B is your really good friend, and so in this circumstance, it does change a little, doesn't it? Because then you're like, well, person B is like my best friend and their portfolio is good enough. Yeah, I could probably give Dietary, but I want to get this person because they're my friend. Right? And so that's why if you want people to care, they have to know who you are. Okay? And so with all that being said, so consider like your options, right? Like, well, if I don't want to worry about food and money and housing and all that good stuff, so I need to get a job that's important, or take the gamble of just working crazy hard,
Yeah.
But either case, whether you're working in like full on, right, or you're more sustainable with your daily work, right? The circumstances have still relatively have unchanged. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Like the only thing that's different is how you're perceiving and how you're approaching it. But the industry is not sitting around waiting for you, right? And they're not like, and it's not like the industry is never going to stop hiring artists either. Okay. So whatever choice you choose, it will be the right choice. You just got to pick one and just be happy with whatever it is. Okay. And focus on the things that actually objectively matter, which is increasing your portfolio and increasing your friendships with people online, or in real life, going to these events and stuff. Right. Yeah, because I think like the first few jobs that I've ever gotten in the industry were primarily because of just friendships, man, because I'm just a friendly person. Right. So that's why I put a lot of that. That's why I don't say it's just the art. And that's why I don't just say it's just the connections. I say they're both equally important. Okay? Because if you have good work but have a lot of good connection, like great connections, then you can get work. If you have great work but just a few connections, you can get work. If you have great connection and amazing work, then you're pretty much set for life. Right? Like if I wanted to stop doing freelance and I want to stop teaching and work in a studio, I probably can, because I just know so many people and they're always hiring, And I'm sure if I said, can I apply? And maybe I'd have to take an art test, or maybe for games that I don't have a lot of style or whatever, I might have to do something. But do you see my point? Like, that's because I've earned like a tremendous reputation amongst many people, and I've worked with many people. I'm positive I can probably work again if I needed to. It would be much easier for me. I'm positive of that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I don't know. I just thought.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted me to give you the answer, I don't know. I don't know what life's gonna hit you with, tomorrow, right? Like you might think, oh, I'm gonna go full throttle on my art, and then tomorrow, something traumatic happens, and now you have to spend all your money, right?
Yeah,
that's most certainly going to happen, I'm sure. And then, or maybe the opposite, like you start working, but then you work at a job that overexerts you, and now you feel really tired all the time. It is your personal responsibility to handle the situation as you need it to be. Make sense? Like you need to take responsibility of making sure your career picks up the way that you want it to, no matter what the circumstances are. Okay? Nobody else is going to be able to do it for you. And the stuff you've been doing for my class has been great. Like you've been doing fine. You just need to keep doing that. Right? And even if you work like you're suggesting you might have to do, then just make sure you still do it. You understand?
Yeah, definitely will. It's just, yeah, I just
The
want to keep that
solution,
motivation.
yeah, the solution's easy. Yeah, the solution's easy. It's just hard to implement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the motivation thing, I always tell people don't focus on motivation and inspiration. Focus on resilience and patience. Just do it, knowing that that is the solution. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a better way, I would be teaching it. You know? If there was like a way that I knew for sure, like no matter what people's circumstances were, that was much easier, I'd be like, this is the way. Don't worry about working hard. Just eat a lot of potatoes and then and then do a fast, and then your brain will expand 20-fold, and then you can learn anything in that time. And that's when you pull out anatomy books and really, no, it's nothing really is like of that nature. Is what I'm trying to tell you. Like what I found to be true is the simplest things. And I'm sorry, say again?
Do you eat a lot of fish though? Apparently it's really good for your brain.
No, I don't eat a lot of fish. I eat a lot of it's because of the omega-3s, right? And so no, I just eat a lot of nuts and a lot of veggies. I'm carved up. Yeah, a lot of carbs, carbohydrates, man. Our brain runs off of sugar as its primary fuel source.
Do you just like go to the gym a lot?
Huh?
Do you just go to the gym a lot?
I work out too, but I don't work out a lot. Yeah, but I primarily just eat vegetables. I'm vegan, so I eat nothing but plants.
You're vegan.
Yeah, living that plant life.
Oh man. How about hunted meat? Would you eat that?
Huh?
Would you eat hunted meat?
No, I don't need to. The only situation where I would eat meat again, there's only a few occasions that I can think of, right? One would be the Dalai Lama approach, which would be if I go to someone's house or culture, like some sort of indigenous tribe, and that's like what they've prepared, like I'm not going to be rude just because, I'll eat it. It's fine. It's fine if on occasion. And that's very rare. Like, so the time that I made that choice was when I was in Italy, and these people took us out to eat, and they're like, you got to try this like pepperoni cheese thingy, right? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll try it. I didn't eat it all. I just tried it, and it tasted good. I was like, yeah, it tastes like what I remember. But then I said, I'm not gonna eat it anymore though, because I don't need to. And
is it a health thing or a human, like a
health thing specifically, and then the ethical thing just evolved easier because once you start getting rid of it, it becomes much easier to look at the ethical aspect of it. Way much easier. And but anyway, my other alternative would be like for survival. Like if I'm out in the middle of the woods and there's no other way of eating, right? Then absolutely.
Yeah.
So like if I'm hunting, so in a situation that you were describing, that meant that I'm like in the wilderness hunting for my life, But if I'm hunting for sport, then no, I wouldn't eat that.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like
if it was ethical, I was just wondering because like some people don't eat it because of factory farming, but I know some people that would eat it if they like hunted it themselves or something. Or
yeah, I think if you're willing to kill and prepare and do all that stuff on your own, I don't see any real issue with that as much. I know some vegans will probably go nuts with that idea, right? But that's at such a small scale, It's really not as big of a deal. Like, yeah, it still sucks that an animal had to die for sport, right? But like at least it's at a scale that's like I think, and it's like it is some sense of there is some sense of like what's the word there's some sense of like circle of life happening there, right? Or they've killed the animal, and then at least the animal's death wasn't entirely in vain, right? That it's being like that it's feeding them or this family of people, right? And so the ethical aspect of it, not to get too much into this, but I'll explain. The one that really hit me the hardest, obviously factory farming is pretty bad and terrible. Have you ever seen footage? It's really disgusting. And in the past, I was just kind of like whatever. But now, like I said, because your biases start to get eliminated a little bit once you start eliminating. It's like if you're like an alcoholic, right? Then or like a chain smoker, then you'll find offenses for why you smoke, right? Like, well, it's my choice, even though you end up with lung cancer, right? But then once you stop smoking, you were much more objective. You can be like, well, yeah, of course it was terrible. What was I thinking? You know? But when you're in it, it's much harder, and that's how I was at first. But then once I got rid of it, then I can see the factory farm footage and be like, oh, yeah, that shit is bad, you know? And then I can see the environmental impact, which is actually the primary reason, is the unsustainability of it, right? That I stand on an ethical stance. Like, it's just entirely unsustainable, you know? And I was just like, oh man, you know, this is really bad. And that just kind of cemented me to kind of just full throttle be veg life, you know? But originally started for health reasons.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that was the most persuasive thing for me, was that, oh yeah, it makes perfect sense that we shouldn't be eating as much as we're eating, you know? And that to me was like the most convincing argument, and that's why I stuck to it. And then again, I'm even more firm mostly now because of both health and ethical. Yeah.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, it's just how it is. Went vegetarian last year. It was really easy to make the switch cold turkey, no puns intended.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't go cold turkey. What I did was minimize, and then I minimized more and more until eventually I just got rid of like all meat. And then the next one, because vegetarian, you still eat eggs and dairy, right?
Yeah.
So then the next one to get rid of was that, and now that's really hard because cheese and butter is delicious, right?
Yeah, I couldn't go that far.
Yeah, but the thing is that dairy is actually the worst, man, and it just is like
that's the worst.
Yeah, that's why if you look at some statistics, you'll see that there's a lot of vegetarians that still have, like, in fact, there was some population studies where they showed that vegetarians actually increased their heart rate diseases. And you're thinking, what? The whole point was to be healthier, or at least for some people. Some people do it for ethical reasons only, right? But because it's just the cholesterol and the high amounts of saturated fat, right? Yeah, it's not good. And dairy and eggs is pretty much just primarily that, especially eggs. Eggs are just only saturated fat and cholesterol.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Don't most like predator animals eat a lot of animal fat anyway? Like,
but so if we're gonna get into this argument, I'll start off with saying
I'm just wondering.
So here's a few facts, okay? So the first fact, that's true, and most predator animals only live for like a decade or two, most. Yeah. Where herbivores live several decades. Like, for instance, like an elephant can live up to like 30 to 40 years old, where a lion can only live up to 14 years, right? But so even an animal that's designed, most animals, right, like mammalistic animals that are designed to eat other animals, don't live very long. Yeah, there's some, right, like you'll see, but then again, they're probably like super ancient, like an alligator, right? Like you're going to use as an example.
Crocodile, yeah.
Or crocodile, right? Like freaking ancient. So think about that. They have had millennias and millions and even potentially billions of years of evolution to be able to survive off of just eating only animals, right?
Yeah, but to be fair, chimps live for a fair long time.
I'm sorry, what?
To be fair though, chimps live for a fairly long time.
Yeah, they live long too, man. Right? And so,
And they're easy.
and they eat pretty much mostly just veggies. And so, like if you look at the animals that we're mostly associated with, right, which would be apes, right?
Yeah.
Most of them are herbivores and frutivores. That's why we love fruits. That's why you don't have to do nothing to fruits, right? You just grab an apple and start eating it, and we love it. It's delicious, right? Bananas too. Bananas are bomb, and most fruits in general for the human palate are just delicious. We crave sugar. We love it, right? Because it's in our nature. So that's like the first fact, right? And this is what started convincing me. I was like, wait a minute, this is true. And if you look at just our physiological standard of our actual body, we are built as herbivores. We have long intestinal tracts, right? We have teeth to help grind food. We can chew sideways, you know?
Yeah.
We're built, we don't have anything physiologically that will allow us to hunt animals. Like if we were without our tools, right?
Yeah.
Like we would not fare well, you know?
Yeah.
In fact, some of the earlier Neanderthals and primates that do eat other animals, because there's some that do actually eat animals, it's more scavenger-like, right? Like they've already been hunted and dead, like a lion or something would have already killed it, and then we would go over there and eat it. It was like the invention of like modern tools and access to fire, which is what made our brain grow, because what we were able to do then was not only to cook meat, right? Because we couldn't eat it, we would get really sick. You know, that's why even today, if you don't cook your chicken, you get like salmonella, right?
Yeah.
Like even to this day, right? The only raw meat that you can really eat is like fish. But even then, you can get sick. Like every time I've had a food poisoning, it was always from fish. And so, but it wasn't cooking the meat that was, because that's again not sustainable. We weren't like hunting like buffalo and eat like en masse. You know what I mean? Like even a lion like can barely kill like one like large game animal once or twice a week. You know what I mean? And they're like literally physically built. So it wasn't like we were just all of a sudden epic hunters. We were good at agriculture. We were able to dig up the roots, like get root vegetables like potatoes and corn, and then we were able to like learn how to grow it. And then cooking something like beans and potatoes was allowing us to get more nutrients out of these foods. Do you understand that? Because they're full of nutrients. But it's like, have you ever tried to eat a potato raw? It's like, it's impossible. Okay. And even if you did, it's just not the best, you know? But once you just bake it, just put it in a hot temperature and just let it bake, you know, and softens up. It's bomb diggity, dude. Right? That's why even to this day, we love to have bread and potatoes like on our burger, right? Most of our burger and fries is carbs and plant-based food. Right? The meat. Hold on, my alarm was going nuts. There you go. My alarm was going off. Sorry about that. So these facts started to kind of come to my mind, and I was just like, wait a minute. You know, and this also explains the epidemic of health. I actually posted about this recently, where you see that the more wealthy a country becomes, the more sick their people become, which is weird, right? Like, how is that possible? And I don't mean like, because there's some poor countries that get sick for different reasons. Like, you know, there's like feces in the water. Like that's a problem that we just don't face in most modern cultures, right? But we get like heart disease increases, diabetes increases, strokes, all sorts of these chronic diseases start to surface. The more wealthy, hold on just a second. Guys, I'm still teaching. They start to surface. So for instance, China is becoming more wealthy, right? Their industries are growing, and guess what's happening?
They're getting sick.
Yeah, they're getting sicker. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
And so that's just hard to dispute. I mean, no matter what your biases are, right? It's really hard to disagree with that. And that's what happened to me, right? Because I was like 31 and I had like a brain tumor. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I was working out. I was training all the time. I was really fit and physically healthy. At least I thought I was. But my cholesterol was high. I had my growth hormones were way too high. That's what made my tumor grow in the first place. And what helps grow, makes your hormones grow, like growth hormones specifically, is eating animal products and a lot of dairy. And I was drinking lots of protein shakes, with milk and dairy, and then because it was whey protein, and then I was eating lots of meat like chickens, fish, but I thought I was eating clean, right? Like I was eating like small portions and all that stuff, and I just started having headaches and started feeling like trash. All that went away after I had my tumor removed and I started just eating right. And it's interesting because some of that still is reminiscent in my body. So even as a vegan, you can eat lots of saturated fat, like a lot of avocados or nuts, right? So you still have to be very cautious. And so I noticed that if I eat like a lot of oily or fatty foods, even if they're vegan, I'll start getting a little bit of the headache again. So there's some sort of like inflammation that happens when I eat too much saturated fat, and my body is just now on overdrive and overreacts even just a little bit, And so I'm even more attentive to this before. And so I highly recommend to people to just minimize. I don't necessarily go straight vegan or vegetarian because I understand. I think if you start to minimize and then slowly start to change, I think you'll naturally progress on your own, but to go cold turkey I think is bad strats. It's the same strategy that now we can kind of bring it back to art. The same strategy I apply to students. Like I don't recommend students to just like spend 17 hours just working all day, and then like, really putting in that time. Because I think that what ends up happening is that you'll work really hard for those few weeks, right? And then once those weeks are done, then you'll fall back, you'll burn out, right? And then you'll go back to your bad habits. And I feel the same thing as with exercise. Like, don't go full throttle. Just start off just doing a few push-ups here and there, do a couple squats here and there. Everything in moderation to build up into consistent behavior, right?
Yeah.
This is how I rolled the first month or two, and then the third, fourth month, I completely got rid of everything. And I've been doing this for nearly 2 years now. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and my kids are super healthy, and they're all plant-based. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my baby is 100% plant-based, and he's been the best. Yeah, he's like basically because my wife is now vegan, so all his breast milk, and even when she was carrying him, she was eating like 90% vegan, and he's the best baby we've had. Like as a baby, like he doesn't cry unless he's hungry, and that's it. That's like literally it. Where other two kids, like they would cry for every little thing, and cry all the time. And we think it's because they were like bloated, or they were like they had like colic, or they're because when you have dairy, it's just inflammatory reaction, and all of our friends, their kids are going through like all this stuff, and we told them like just cut out the dairy, and one of our friends did this, and now their baby was just like almost cured of whatever that was bothering them. It was like almost instantaneous. But the other friend is just still not convinced. They're like, well, my doctor says calcium, and we're just like, but your kid is like crying all the time. Your kid's trying to tell you that they're hurting. You're just not listening to them, and your doctor's not a nutritionist. They don't know anything about nutrition. It's like my doctor said that I needed to sleep more. Until one of my doctors is like, no, you got a tumor in your head, and I'm like, oh, that sucks. So
that's pretty.
Yeah, you don't want to wait till you're really sick before you start to change your habits, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. I'm probably just gonna stop smoking before I even try anything.
Yeah, maybe that's a good strategy. Yeah, first things first. Get rid of that one thing, and then move on to another thing. And I've actually come down. I used to be like vegan or nothing, man, but I realized that's not necessarily good strats, because everyone's different, and some people maybe they just have different lifestyles and access to foods. You know, it's not the same for everybody. And so my advice is usually just to minimize, and then substitute your base the base of your meals. Instead of having like meat as the base, I would usually encourage having like, you know, some sort of starch, like a sweet potato or potatoes or beans, you know, lentils, hummus, tofu, you know, switch those out to some of these.
All that sounds delicious.
Yeah, see, because think about it. Like I said earlier, we're a sugar-eating species, right? And so our brains grew because we were able to eat starches for once, and then our brains grew because we were feeding it a tremendous amount of carbohydrates. Not like Coca-Cola, but like, you know, potatoes and shit like that, you know?
Yeah. But I think but don't you think it's a little bit genetics too, though? Because, like, I don't know, man. Like, I know Russians eat that shit all the time. I'm Russian, and, like, everyone's fat as hell.
What, eats a lot of potatoes?
Yeah, they just eat a lot of, like, root vegetables.
Yeah, I highly doubt that, man. Yeah, you're probably not looking at the bigger picture. They also drink a lot.
Yeah,
right?
but they drink. Hey, it's vodka. I don't know. Yeah,
It's
probably.
still calories. Doesn't matter. It's not water. It doesn't just go right through you. You're like, it does for me, man. You don't know me.
I don't drink. I don't drink.
Yeah, no, it's if you look at the broader picture, you'll usually investigate. If you just do a little bit of investigation, you'll discover what I'm talking about. So, what is like the Russian-based diet? What do they eat normally? The second course is roasted meat, fish paired with potatoes or bread. For a healthy Russian midday meal, choose a broth-based rich in vegetables like borscht, rich roasted fish with whole grain bread. So, like you said, they eat a lot of. They do, but even in this just random Live Strong article, the first two things that they mentioned was roasted meat and fish.
Yeah.
All right, let's investigate further.
That's it's fermented fish and just ground beef or.
Yeah, like look at this. This does not look like potatoes. It's like deep fried.
Dude, it's the worst cuisine. It's all Soviet era food. Like, it hasn't changed. It's really bad food. Taste it.
Yeah, look at this. This is like straight up fried fish. I mean, I don't know enough about Russia, but just with my minimal investigation that I just did right now, like I don't think that you're wrong that there is like some sort of staple starch that they have. All cultures have that. That's my point. There's no culture without a starch. You very rarely will you find a culture that their main thriving food was only of meat and they don't eat anything else. I think it was like some Alaskan Native Americans, right, that had like only a fish-based diet, and they all have terrible heart disease, you know, and so it's pretty consistent, right? The Native Americans in general, though, they had corn, right? That was their thing, corn and wheat, I think it was. You know, a lot of European countries, potatoes, right? Eastern countries, rice, right?
Yes.
So if you just look into it, you'll discover it's pretty consistent. Yeah, go ahead, Peter. Ask your question.
All right. So last mentorship class, like more than a month ago, he said, in order to give me a goal that at some point in 2018, if you were going to an art fest, maybe we could meet up there.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like my goal to have sort of like a professional portfolio by then.
Yes.
So I'm in Montreal now, and I'm going to start studying for 5 months in the beginning of January. Do you have any, might be a hard question, but do you have any general advice? Because right now I have all the free time in the world. I sold my house with a profit. I'm here together with my fiance. We don't have any responsibilities apart from like she finding a job and me becoming good at concept art. Any general advice or?
Yeah, just start start to do like contests or start submitting to places where you can be accountable, you know, just because the problem has always been and always will be, no matter whether if you're in school or not, your amount of devotion into the craft, right? So having a lot of free time, we've already experienced, doesn't change anything, right? And so what we did before, right, was make you draw every day. That was what helped, even though you had a lot of things going on. That was something that you were able to do. So on the Discord, we have dailies. So I would say that's the first thing you need to do. Submit every day. I don't care, right? Every single day. And then the second thing that I would say, the second thing that I would probably say is, you know, like I said, do like a contest, like go on websites, find contests that you can be a part of, you know?
Yeah.
So that again, it's just, you just need something that you're actually submitting and like there's a goal wrapped around it. You understand? Because if you just build some sort of regiment, like you're going to fall off of it, you're going to get bored of it. But if you just start having something that you're just accountable for, then you're going to do more work. I think that's just how you work the best. And so I would say the first step, is to just go online, start finding these places that I'm mentioning.
Cool.
And then start submitting. Yeah. Because if you don't, you're just going to fall back into this trap again. And you're going to feel worse because then you would have had all this time. Right? And then you just didn't put that time in. So I'll highly recommend doing that, you know, like really sitting down and just investing a lot of your time and effort to just creating an accountability system.
I'm thinking also having like a weekly posting schedule, just even on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make, right? Keep yourself accountable.
And then I can see progression, like you said, you had with your blog.
Yeah, I remember my blog was specifically designed for me to paint and stay on it. And then I just got better and better. And then I started getting a couple followers here and a couple followers there, and that was really motivating. Even if it was only like one or two, I was like, oh, dope, you know?
Yeah.
And that still holds true to this day. Like sometimes when I'm on Instagram, I'll get like a dozen followers, and I'm like, yes, you know? Because I'm just adding it up, man. Like I'm almost at 95,000 now. Right?
Holy shit.
But like I was only collecting like a few here and a few there, right? It wasn't ever like 1,000 all at once. Sometimes it might have been like a huge jump, but I never was relying on that. But yeah, that's my advice.
Cool. Thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah, being in Australia too, I imagine there's nothing but just meat. When I think of Australia, I just think of like crocodile hunter. Shrimp on the barbie. Yeah. Any other questions before I send you guys off to the world?
I had one from before, but I forgot it.
Oh, did you? Think about it. Think long and hard. Yeah. the industry as a whole is pretty expansive. Like, it keeps growing, so I wouldn't worry about jobs. Not to say that the jobs are easy to come by. I'm just saying that there's just always going to be there, at least for now, at least as I predict. I don't see anything necessarily changing that just yet.
So I remember that question.
Yeah, go for it.
So I want to apply for with Bungie and stuff. Want to do internships with them, or just maybe straight up hired if I could. But would it make sense to do what is essentially fan art for them, or would it make a little more sense to kind of do my own characters in their world, or just kind of?
I think a combination.
My stuff to look a little like theirs, like.
I think a combination.
How flattering should I be, I guess?
Yeah, a combination. Like, I usually do fan art. I like doing fan art, but then I think the best solution is just make artwork that looks like they could fit in their universe. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly for their universe.
Yeah.
So that way it's like ambiguous, and it's just kind of like just good artwork that's like Destiny inspired, versus just straight up like making a Destiny or like a, like a Bungie, straight up Bungie character.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I think that's something to kind of focus in on. But yeah, there's what is it, like, there is just a lot of content out there, and so you want to make your stuff stand out, so try to find a good strategy that makes not only your work look like something that they could enjoy and be impressed by, right? But also something that is different than what they have.
Show that maybe if they brought me on, I'd bring something new to the table.
Yeah. And so that usually requires you to look at different styled artwork to be inspired by, not just from their point of view.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, you guys hear about Louis C.K.?
Yeah, that's crazy.
What? And I posted about, like, why do men in power just feel the need to masturbate in front of women? It's such a weird, it's like a weird MO. It's like a serial, like, perversion that's happening in the industry, the film industry specifically.
Yeah, it's gotta be creepy. I guess I better jack off right now.
Yeah, well, so it was like, first it was Harvey Weinstein did that, right? He was the first, and I was like, oh man, I get a little weird. And then there was another guy, the guy with Olivia Munn. I forget his name, but he did it in front of her and a few others. And then Louis, and I'm like, what? This is 3. Like, okay, first time it's just kind of like an outlier, maybe. I'm sure there's a lot of harassment and typical kind of stuff, like sex for status type of stuff, Mm-hmm. But the whole masturbating in front of people, it seemed like a very unique Harvey thing. That's what I felt. Right? It's like, I'm not touching them, so it's kind of not really a thing, And then the other guy did it. So, like, did they just have like a meeting and they're like, you can do this, and it's not technically sexual harassment because you're not actually touching them, You're just kind of like touching yourself, which I can see the argument there, but the problem is that
it's still sexual harassment, right?
Yeah, because I didn't ask, they didn't ask for that, right? And I guess in some of his defenses, like, he's saying that, like, he just misread people different. And like, well, no, what you do is you just ask people, bro. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with what he did. Yeah, there's nothing inherently wrong with what he did. It's the whole consent part. Yeah, right? Like if that's your thing, like, whatever, dude, it's fine. But like, yeah, you gotta, like, ask for permission. And even in the situations where I think he did ask for permission and some of those chicks were weirded out, I think if you just ask, I don't think there's anything entirely wrong with that. But the problem is, again, the situation, the context, because he's like potentially going to get them a job. So it's a really dangerous position, right? Like, well, like he's like a person that had a lot of power in a lot of these in situations, you know.
Yeah.
And so it'd be like one thing, like if you're on a date with somebody, you know, and then you just ask like, hey, do you mind if I just like do this?
Rub one out real quick.
Yeah, right in front of you, and they're just like, no, and then they just like leave, or maybe they're just like, oh, that's fine, go ahead, and then you just do it. I think that's weird, but that's fine, because there was no that person actually had potentially a genuine choice to say yes or no, right? Where in this situation, these people feel like if they say no, like, will that like put us in bad graces with Louis? Does that mean that later in the future we can't like
something like that?
Yeah, that's not, that's why you don't do stuff like that. That's why dating, work date situations like are always real sketch. Like dating people that you work with, especially if you're someone who has more power than the person you're dating, you know. So I like dating students is also really sketch if you're like a teacher for the same reasons, you know. Right. And so like even there was like a positions where I was single and I was teaching, and there was some students that I was like attracted towards. I knew better. Like I knew like you just don't do that. You just don't. Just because like and if maybe years from now, if like I meet this person again, maybe it would be different, you know. But as it stands, it's a bad. It's a no-no. But you know, obviously, I didn't have to deal with that ever because I ended up dating someone else completely and marrying them. But my point is that I feel like nobody teaches this. Like it's not taught. Yeah, it's like not. It seems like it should be common sense, right? But I think maybe it isn't. Maybe people don't know this, and so I think they need to be taught. Like young boys and girls need to be taught in school. Like these are the situations when it comes to sexuality and work and power dynamics where you should consider your choices of trying to date. And I think Louis is old enough to understand this, so he just exploited it even regardless.
You think he's going to bounce back from this, or think his career is done?
No, I think he's going to be fine, which is unfortunate. I think he should get like he already got like he got a few jobs lost. He had an interview that was canceled, so there was definitely some repercussions. But I feel like there really needs to be like some really harsh repercussions, right? Because I don't care if Louis is funny, because he's hilarious. His jokes are some of my favorite jokes, but it doesn't matter, dude. Like just don't be doing that stuff, dude. Just stop. Like I could still watch his like specials and laugh at the jokes, but at this point I'm probably not going to watch him anymore. Not because I don't think they're not funny. I'm sure they're still probably going to be funny. It's just I don't want to support someone that I disagree with. And so it's the same way like Bill Cosby. He did a lot of great comedy, and he even did a lot of good stuff for donations and cancer and inner city children, right?
Yeah.
But he raped people, dude. Like that's not good. That's illegal. You should go to jail.
Yeah, so the thing
doesn't matter.
One of the writers, he had all these allegations against him that were true, and then they fired him, and all of his shows are canceled.
Yep. Good.
Yeah.
It's a crime. Yeah. I don't know why people just don't treat it as a crime. Like I don't care if that person did so many good things. It's criminal, dude. They should be punished. And so, yeah, like I was disappointed, man. I was like, oh, not Louis. Like who isn't? Who isn't like weird now? Like
anyone else, just get it over.
Yeah, just get them out. All of them. Let's start fresh. Like hard reset. Blow in the cartridge. Let's do it. You know. Anyway. Luckily, like again, I don't see this much happening in the game industry. So that's my intuitions of staying in the game industry, I think, are right. Unless one day there's going to be the awakening, and then just all these people come out. But you know, I have had friends who work, female artists who work, and they tell me some stories. But it's not people internally in the game industry. It's just other people outside, like creepers that just message them directly.
Yeah,
that's a uniquely female thing. I don't think that happens to dudes as much, unless you're probably like super super hot dude. But like
when I was serving, I had some interactions like that, like female customers asking me like come back to their room for money and stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I had to say no. But.
Oh yeah, yeah. Of course, you had to say no. But yeah, that's crazy, man. People, man, they don't know how to keep their pants on. Anyway, yeah, that's trip. But it's good. It's good. It means that people are coming out more and more. That's really good. Calling out peeps. Any final questions? Oh, what's my favorite anime? I think it was Dragon Ball Z. It's the only one that I can think of that I enjoyed and watched all the way through. There's some that I really like that I haven't watched, like Kill la Kill. Like I watched like 4 or 5 episodes and I loved it. Same thing with One Punch Man. But I think Dragon Ball Z, just classic. Just watched that all the way through. Any artistic questions or any industry questions that you guys would like to have answers to?
I'll think of some for next class. I get closer to moving.
Oh, where are you moving?
I gotta sell this house that I inherited, so I'm going through that too. I got the realtor coming over today, but I'll probably move over to Vancouver.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, not to get too deep into this, but how are you feeling about all that stuff, man?
It's still pretty overwhelming.
Oh man.
I'm in a 4-story townhouse that my dad owned, and his car's outside still. So
4-story townhouse.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So yeah, my mom and I spent about 40 days, 2 months renovating it all.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it seems like you have a good family system or friends and family system. Seems like you're not doing too bad.
Taking this class too has helped a lot. Just keep me focused and.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, it's not nearly as severe as your situation with your father passing, but like where like when I had broken up with my ex at the time, it sucked because we were together for like 3 years, and yeah, painting was just really good. It was helpful. I just turned off my mind and just got to work, and that infuriated her because she would call me all the time because she didn't have that. She was like working, and so she was always just on. You know, she was always upset, and I guess she didn't like the fact that I wasn't nearly as upset. And she's like, "Were you ever in love with me before?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude. It's just like it's bad. Our relationship's bad. It just went really south. It's just unfixable, you know." And
revenge is living a happy life or something like that.
Yeah, I wasn't intentionally trying to do that, but I was talking to my son because he went through a really bad breakup too with the girl he was with for like a year, and I was telling him the same thing. I was like, because he kept on talking about like all the things that she was doing and all this stuff, and I was like, see, that's the thing. Like, you keep looking, you want her to really suck. you want it to be like without you, like her life is miserable. And I was like,
justification in the
yeah,
you want to be spiteful.
Yeah, and I was like, you have to understand, maybe she is just happier without you, and if that's the case, then that's why it didn't work out. But I was like, but then that's your job to also be happier without her. That's why you don't want to be with her, right?
Right.
And so you're not demonstrating that, and that's it. And I think you are better because she wasn't so great, and I think she was just faking it. I don't think she was actually having a better, because she did some stuff that I told him, like she had some symptoms of behavior that I don't think that's why he separated in the first place. Like she immediately found somebody else as soon as they broke up, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I was like, so she has very low self-identity, and so that means she doesn't know who she is without somebody supporting her and around her all the time. And I was like, that's why you need to to like separate, because you can find out who you are. Because once you finally are in a relationship, you're going to be way more confident about who you are and what you're where you stand. So you won't like flip on a dime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
it needs to be that cool down period too after a long relationship.
Yeah, it was like, and so I'm glad to hear that you're getting past it.
Yeah.
I stream. I've been trying to stream every other night. Like, you should join in on the streams, hang out with us.
Yeah. Okay.
And that goes for everybody too. So everyone hang out and chat outside of class. Well, we in the streams, I don't necessarily am obligated to answer questions. It's just me painting. So don't feel like, okay, this is my time to ask AJ all these art questions, because it's usually just my time to just hang out with other artists and just talk about stuff that I like enjoy to talk about. But obviously in here, like, it's great to talk about all kinds of different topics, but also I'm here to answer your guys' questions and help you as artists. And if you ever have art questions, guys, you can always ask me on the Discord. I might not get back to you immediately, but I will get back to you.
I need to join up the Discord.
Yeah, the Discord's great. It's like really lively. People are there and they're constantly contacting and talking to each other. It's what I wanted the Facebook to be, and the Discord's a great solution to that. I think the club still needs some sort of evolution. I think I'm going to have to just design it entirely from the ground up the way that I want it to be, and stop relying too much on third-party stuff. But it's going well. I just need to really design it from the ground up. But with that being said, one last question, and then I'm going to go. No? All right, guys. I'm going to let you guys go. It was a pleasure. You guys are all awesome. I appreciate y'all. Keep in touch with one another. Don't just become strangers as soon as the class is over. I think it's really important, like I said, to make friends. And this has actually panned out to be true for a lot of my other students who've kept in touch with one another. Some students have gotten better positions and jobs, and they've become art directors for studios, and then they are hiring like a lot of the other artists that worked or were students of mine, and they help each other out, and they are doing great on doing that kind of stuff. And I think that's really important to continue. And if you use the Discord, there's plenty of other people there that are really nice and really friendly. I highly encourage you to hang out and talk with these people as well. And with that being said, peace out, friends. After this class is over, I will send you guys the link to the Dropbox that has all the videos so you guys can download for yourself. I highly recommend you download it and keep it safe somewhere, because I move folders and files all over the place all the time. And so you might want to, if you click on the link, let's say sometime in the future, it might not work. So peace out, friends. Have a great weekend, and have a great week and month and year, and laters. Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you like the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.